Hello, good morning, and welcome to our second Bigger Backyard webinar. Today, we're going to be talking a lot about marketing in a crisis, and we're joined by Simon Gould from Orbit Marketing, here in a lovely red shirt. We're joined by Tim Stringer from Sublime Media in the lovely Boston Red Sox hat, I think. And coming in up at the top with the Panther very shortly will be Emma Barbato, who's the former digital strategist from Southern Cross Stereo, and now a small business owner who's marketing her own products online and selling them through e-commerce. So before we begin, I just need to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we all meet and pay respects to their elders, both past and present. Now, we talked a little about the Bigger Backyard in our previous session. We also talked a lot about the current business support that's available for businesses from state, federal and local government. And if you've not seen that session, it is available on our website. If you go to biggerbackyardmidcoast.com.au/events, you'll find that the link for the YouTube video that we now posted of that session is also available. So we're going to dive straight in, and we're going to start talking about marketing. And we're going to talk about why it's really important to continue marketing at this moment and how you might be able to go about doing that. So we're going to start with Simon from Orbit Marketing, who's here in the lovely red shirt. Simon, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning, mate. Very well, thanks.
It's lovely to see you, and it is looking beautiful and sunny there. It's lovely to see you outside enjoying the sunshine. So tell us a little bit, Simon, about in your backyard. Welcome to my backyard. Tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us a little bit about Orbit Marketing.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. And hello to everybody who's joining us. So I'm a marketing graduate from the University of New England, where I graduated, I don't know, about 100 years ago. Spent time with News Corp in their magazine division, working across their sporting and motorcycle titles. Also time with the Car Sales Network, about 5 years with an independent newspaper publisher, and also on the agency side as a media planner. So mostly working with small and medium-sized businesses, helping them kind of formulate their advertising and marketing strategy. And since 2018, I've owned and operated Orbit Marketing, which is a dedicated social media marketing agency that helps businesses generate leads and sales using Facebook, Instagram, and chat-based marketing on platforms like Messenger, Instagram Direct, SMS, email. So that's us in a nutshell.
Fantastic. So right now, we're all going through a really tough time as business owners, and there's a sense of disconnection, I think, between a lot of businesses and their customers. So why is it important for us to continue with our marketing at this time?
It's a really good question, and it's one that we're getting regularly at the moment, because a lot of businesses feel now isn't the right time to be marketing. They either feel like they're wasting their money, or they feel like they're being intrusive or insensitive. And the truth is, it's probably more important than ever to be marketing right now. In times of crisis, people are far more reluctant to change. And so they need reassurance from you as business owners that firstly, you're still trading. They need to know that you're still open for business. They need to know that you're there to support them and you know, whatever their needs might be right now. And people still need the products and the services that you're offering. You know, while some of us are definitely on hard times, there's a lot of people who are still working and still consuming. They're just doing it differently. And they need to know, how do they trade with you now? Now, how do they get hold of your products or your services if you've changed the way that you're doing business? And so it's really important for you to make sure that they've got that information available to them. So it's important for your clients that you're still marketing right now. It's also important for you and your business. You know, you've still got obligations to your family or your staff to make sure that you continue to bring in revenue. And it is actually genuinely a good opportunity. Now, if you look at, you know, over half of Fortune 500 companies were actually founded during times of crisis. Businesses like GE, IBM, Hewlett-Packard, Microsoft, and Google all founded during really difficult economic times. And if you take a leaf out of the book of a bloke like Jerry Harvey, who says, when times are tough, that's when you put your foot on the gas. And if you have a look at major newspapers at the moment, you'll find most of them are wrapped in his advertising, because he knows whilst his competitors are all kind of pulling their heads in, he's got the opportunity to grow his market share. And then as the market sort of emerges from these tough times and grows, he'll retain that share of market, but it'll be a bigger market. So, it's important for your customers to be marketing, to let them know you're here, how you're trading and how they can trade with you, and also to help you grow your business.
So we're focusing very much on social media at the moment, and there's different ways of marketing on social media. Everyone knows about Facebook ads and boosting posts, but let's just start with the basics of posting things to our Facebook pages and engaging people in that way. What kind of content do you think is best to be putting out on your social pages at the moment to engage your audiences?
Useful, helpful, educational content is absolutely the way to go now. The first thing, and this is good advice at any time, but particularly now, is really take the time to understand what your clients and prospective clients' pain points are. What's the problem that you're solving for them with your marketing right now? And that'll be different from, the pain points or the problems they might have in a really buoyant market. At that time, it's all about getting more clients or making more profit or, buying that new car or having that holiday. And at the moment, it's probably more around, hey, I need support. I need reassurance. I need to understand that you're still there for me and I need to survive. So the first thing you want to do is take the time to really understand those pain points and then create content that's built around that. So tools and checklists can be really handy, something that people can use just to make their day a little bit better. 75% of your content really should be that useful and helpful content built around the 3 pillars of content marketing, which are awareness, affinity, and authority. So awareness being telling people, who you are and what you do. They can be your salesy type posts, but then your affinity type posts are the ones that help people get to like you. They're fun, they're behind the scenes, they're memes. There's something that just brings a little bit of happiness to people's day. And then there's the authority type posts, which are the ones that position you as an authority or an expert in your field. And that's where we're talking about things like useful tools, checklists, ebooks, testimonials, case studies, things that people can actually use and implement in their own business, but helps position you as the authority. So we know that people will do business with you when they know you, they like you, and they trust you. And that's what that awareness, affinity, and authority is all about. It's about building content that gives them the opportunity to do all of those things. And then at some point you do need to make a sales pitch, but that should be maybe 25% of your content. If you're not doing that, you're going to be really well known and highly respected and poor. So it is okay to have a sales pitch, but that shouldn't be the bulk of it. Don't be out there going, hey, buy my stuff, or making these big, bold statements about how wonderful things are. Don't be tone deaf, be respectful. But that's the type of content that we should be putting out into the marketplace at the moment.
And I think we were talking offline about this yesterday. And I think that one of the things that you said to me, which I found really quite insightful, is that it doesn't really matter whether it's B2B or B2C, that there's always a human at the end of it. And we need to ensure that we're doing human to human content.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. I'm really glad that you took that away from that chat yesterday. And as I mentioned, I didn't come up with that. There's a digital marketing guy I follow named Ryan Dice. If anybody's keen to find an influencer in this market to follow, look up Ryan Dice. And he came up with that. There's B2B, there's B2C, but ultimately it's all H to H. We're all humans and we need to treat those business relationships exactly the same way we would treat a personal relationship. You need to give people the chance to get to know you a little bit, to get to trust you and to believe that you're the one who's capable of solving whatever problem they've got at the moment. And the best way to convince them of that isn't to tell them that you can solve their problem. It's just to do it, just fix it. Give them something that's really useful that they can take away and implement and get a benefit from. And then that level of trust and affinity will be attached to you straight away. And when they do need to purchase something, provided you've given them a way to reach out to you, you will be top of mind and you'll be the first person they come to. So yeah, absolutely. We're all human beings at the end of the day, and we want to be treated with that level of respect.
So let's assume then that we've now started posting some really great content and got some really good engagement on our Facebook page or our Instagram page. And we've decided that we want to do some social media ads because we can see the benefit of that. How do we go about it? I mean, the first thing that everybody's going to think about is boost post, because Facebook is always saying, would you like to boost this post? So where do we start, Simon?
Boosting, there is absolutely a place for boosting posts, and it's a deeper conversation for when we've got a lot more time about what the benefits of boosting are. But just be aware, it's not always a bad idea to boost a post, right? There is definitely a place for it within your marketing strategy. But really, if you want to be more strategic about it, then you need to be using Facebook's Business Manager platform, which is where you can create your ads for Facebook. You can create your ads for Instagram. You can link in things like your Messenger bot if you want to automate some of that process. That's the mechanics of it. Make sure you're using that platform and you've got a proper business advertising account set up. And it sounds complex. It's not. It's really straightforward. It's a free platform offered by Facebook. And if we send out the slides from this preso, there'll be a link in it to actually take you to that platform so you can set it up. Then it's really about testing. Make sure you split test multiple audiences to find the one that responds to your messaging. Make sure you're using appropriate imagery at the moment. So something that might have been appropriate previously, like a big group of people all celebrating and having fun, isn't really appropriate now. Think about images with individuals in them. No photos of people taking these lavish vacations. It's not happening at the moment. Use warm and supportive imagery, photos of individuals, could be online connection between people. It's still important to have people's faces in your images because, again, human to human, we all relate better to images that have people in them. And tell stories with your advertising. Make sure you've got copy, advertising copy that is engaging and persuasive. Use a copywriter. Not everybody has the budget, but if you can afford to use a professional copywriter, do that because they can put your copy together in a way that is still mindful and respectful of what's happening, but still achieve those goals of being persuasive.
So let's assume then that we've managed to do that. We don't need an agency to set up an ad account, do we? We can do that ourselves. Is that correct?
Yeah, we can absolutely do that ourselves. And sorry, just one more point. With your advertising content, it shouldn't actually be that different from the organic stuff that you've been posting. You might need to adjust your advertising objectives at the moment rather than going out thinking I'm going to make a massive sale or I'm going to generate stacks of revenue. It could be around I'm going to build my list for later on. So some of those tools we were talking about, those cheat sheets and checklists and ebooks, that could be the content that you're promoting, offering people the opportunity to download that. We've all done it. I've done it. I do it every day. I opt into somebody's sales funnel because I see something that I think is genuinely useful and I'll put my email address in order to get that. That's a really good objective for your advertising at the moment, is to build that list because that's going to position you for really solid growth as we start coming out the other side of this. But Paul, to answer that question, you don't need an agency. You can do all of this yourself. There's some really good free content around that will help you. Facebook particularly have a course called Facebook Blueprint, which is free, and it takes you step by step through every element of creating an advertising campaign. There are some really good paid courses around as well that are much more cost effective than using an agency. So for small businesses, don't feel overwhelmed by this. You don't need big ad budgets and you don't need to be paying big fees to agencies in order to get all this done.
So we've talked about building our list and getting some ebooks and some content out to people to view. There's something that maybe people don't know about, which is the retargeting in Facebook. So if we have people that have downloaded one of our ebooks or responded to one of our posts, what can we then do with those people in terms of retargeting?
Oh, so much. This is where the magic of digital marketing happens. If somebody's downloaded one of our ebooks or our cheat sheets, we've typically got their email address and we want to make sure we're nurturing them via email or SMS or both, ideally. What we know is 80% of people, at least 80% of people won't convert the first time they connect with you. So they click on an ad or they download something, they're probably not going to buy from you straight away. And the ones that do are often buying at reduced prices because you've got an offer. So if they download something, you've got their email address, don't ignore that. Make sure you're nurturing those leads, because that's the vast majority of people you've paid to get their details. And we know once they've been nurtured, they're far more likely to buy something at full price. And so that's where the bulk of your sales and profit will come from. But in terms of retargeting, firstly, you need to make sure that you've got the tracking code installed on your website, and that might be something you need a web developer to help with. But if somebody, for example, watches a bit of your video or engages with one of your ads, or just constantly visit your website, you can actually create lists of those people or audiences of those people and show them separate advertising, which is more direct, more call to action. They're already aware of your brand. They've already developed at least some level of trust and affinity with you because they've read your content or they've consumed your video. And so then you can retarget them with a more direct call to action. And that's really where the cheapest cost per click advertising comes from, and the highest return on investment advertising or return on ad spend advertising comes from retargeting. People who've already put their hand up and said, hey, I'm interested in what you do, by engaging with your other ads. So a really good strategy would be to run an inexpensive ad campaign like a video views ad or a reach ad, just to get into people's news feeds. Those two objectives are pretty cost effective. And then retarget people who either watch a percentage of the video or engage with that ad or click through to a website. So that's a really short funnel, but a very simple and effective one that can be easily set up by a business owner.
And you've mentioned video there, and video is a great way to get people into those kind of retargeting funnels, which is fantastic, because we are going to talk very shortly to Tim Stringer from Sublime Media. But before we do that, let's take a look at one of our case study videos. We've been up and down the Mid-Coast over the last few weeks, visiting a number of businesses and talking to them about their business and why they enjoy doing business on the Mid-Coast and the benefits that it brings to them. And we're going to play one of those videos now, and then we'll be straight back to talk to Tim Stringer from Sublime Media.
MidCoast Conveyancing is a young, dynamic firm. We've been operating for approximately 4 years now. We're located in Tuncurry, Foster area. We service New South Wales wide, and our digital processes make that possible. MidCoast Conveyancing has a strong online presence. We're known for our outstanding customer service. We boast a 5-star rating across all line digital platforms. You'll notice that any of our reviews mention our cost-effective service, which we're able to offer all customers across New South Wales due to our effective processes and our great team of friendly staff. We enjoy being a positive influence in the local community. We enjoy collaborating with other businesses to enhance a regional economic development. We want to make sure that people are coming to the community and enjoying this beautiful area. We also find that it's very rewarding to be able to sponsor local netball teams and be a part of that community. We also enjoy holding events and raising funds for other community charities and making sure that we contribute in a real positive way to the community. It's been a wonderful experience working in the Mid-Coast. I've been able to collaborate with a large amount of businesses, which give us a huge sense of community spirit. I work with a lot of business people who have also become friends over the years. It's allowed me to have the lifestyle that I love. I can be on the water and fishing one day and then in the office and servicing New South Wales the next. Our processes allow us to work throughout New South Wales and have an extremely successful business, but I can also have the lifestyle where I have a community spirit here. The Mid-Coast has been a really innovative and exciting place to work. Since we started here, I've noticed a huge shift in the people that we are dealing with. We're seeing a trend of people moving from Sydney, coming up and wanting to live regionally. We're seeing young first home buyers coming into the area and bringing their families. This has been a huge moment for us to be able to assist those people in that demographic. Hopefully the future for MidCoast conveyancing is positive and sees a real push forward for growth and having more input into the community. We want to continue to expand and grow our business so that it can bring more people into the region and offer more jobs to our local community.
And there we have the lovely Jessica from MidCoast Conveyancing. Great little business in Tuncurry. It was lovely to spend some time with them and understand exactly what they're doing. If you didn't get a chance to see all that, then it will be up on our website as well. So you get another chance to have a look at that video. And that video was filmed by Tim Stringer from Sublime Media. Good morning, Tim. How are you?
Morning, guys. How are you going? Very good, thanks. Just trying to avoid 3 of my little children running in the door at any moment.
The joys of working from home that we're all going through at the moment.
If you hear screaming, I apologise.
That's quite all right. I'm sure everyone's having the same issues. Let's look at the idea of using video, Tim. Now, not everybody at the moment is going to be able to spend the budget to bring someone like yourself in. I mean, you have quite a big background in video. Where did you start? What's your story of doing video over here?
So, I mean, I actually started in front of the camera, and that was an excuse to just learn about cameras. So a lot of photography, first of all, did lots of fashion stuff, and sort of corporate things like that, but I really wanted to get into video. And so very, very slow process to get into proper sort of making videos, working on television. It takes a long time to sort of create any kind of leads to get into that business. So I worked for a rental house for a long time, renting cameras out, and eventually got into TV, working on TV shows and producing videos. And then eventually having enough of being in the city and moving to the countryside, I've now started my own business where I essentially make videos for companies such as yourself and all smaller businesses around this area.
And if anybody's seen Bondi Rescue from a couple of years ago, you were one of the camera crew on that show, yeah?
Yeah, there's excuse me, there's quite a lot of reality shows, and as soon as I start listing reality shows, people will start rolling their eyes back to with the excitement of some of those shows. But they're actually, funny enough, what it comes across is what you see on the TV isn't what it's like to work there. The crew, some of the cast even, are actually really nice, but of course they're edited in such a way that they come off quite badly when they're on TV. So it has been really good fun working on a lot of those shows. I won't drop too many names, but you know, yes, it's a great training ground to get all your video skills really right up to top notch. Other than working on big movies, this takes you right up there, yeah.
And that's exactly what we want to talk about today, is video skills, because not everybody can bring in someone like yourself at the moment. But video is a really good way of getting your message across on a number of platforms. So if we're thinking about making a video for ourselves as a business, where do we start?
Well, it's a very good question. The basic where to start really is a case of set yourself a budget. You know, because everything costs money. Now, if you can start filming with a phone, that is not a problem at all. I'll get into that in a minute. But essentially, a little bit of planning comes down to it first. So plan timings, plan budgets, plan anything you want to put into your video. You need to think about what you're trying to communicate first of all. So what are you trying to say? What are viewers going to watch and hear, and how are you going to get that message across without spending too many hours trying to make some kind of video? Excuse me. So you need to organize a lot of things other than if you go out on a day with a camera to film something for the first time, inherently you will come back and you won't quite have what you want, and it will feel a bit messy, and everything will be sort of missed. There's a lot of things missing, which first few times I went out filming on my own in this process, you feel like you come back and you're missing loads of stuff, and then you need to go back and go and get it. So the way to avoid that is to basically do what we do is pre-production, and sit down with a big notepad, write out effectively a script, write down, discuss with interviewees what they're going to say, what you want them to wear, what messages, as I said, what messages you want to get across, discuss the locations you might want to go to with these people, where you're going to film it, how are you going to film it. Basically anything related to the organization of this very small shoot that you're probably going to do with a very small camera. But the more you can get down on a notepad first, the more that's going to help you on the day, just to make sure you go through that list and get everything you need.
So you mentioned right there mobile phones, and that it's okay to shoot on a mobile phone. If we are going to shoot on a mobile phone, what do we need to know about doing that?
Yeah, look, you don't have to have big cameras to film. Mobile phones are fine as long as you follow a couple of rules. My first one is extremely important, which is you must clean your camera lens. I think probably, I don't know, definitely 9 out of 10 people who ever take a photo on their phone never clean the lens first. And you can always tell, it generally looks filthy. So just rub it with a t-shirt. Anything you can do, just make sure your lens is clean. Also use the front of the front lens, the lens on the back of your camera. So don't use the one where you can see yourself on the screen. That's a much cheaper and much smaller camera lens. It's really not as good. But yes, you can definitely use a phone. Now, things to make sure you do are ensure the video settings on your phone are good. You want to get the highest quality. Now, you've heard of 4K, you've heard of HD. You probably won't need 4K, and it will be harder to edit if you start filming everything in 4K. And also your phone will fill up with media extremely quickly. So best to shoot in HD. Make sure your settings are set for HD. Also, you want to record horizontally. So, sorry. Everyone seems to film like this at the moment, which is good for Simon and social media quite often. But generic filming is always done in a landscape mode. It's a lot wider field of vision. It means you can see more on the screen, and there's a lot more to show, like people with their backgrounds, how they work. You're looking at it right now, we're in the same landscape format, and it generically works a lot better for all kinds of videos overall. You can also crop into that and create a square shape if you need to, but if you start filming vertically, you're very limited as to what you can do with that eventually, other than put it back onto a phone. So what else? Also, if you're going to use a phone, it's very important to hold it still. So we get a lot of shaky footage. Some phones do have a stabilizing system within the phone. It works okay, but it's much more important just to hold the phone with 2 hands, or if you can, buy a stabilizer. There are very small stabilizers. Camera gimbals are also called. It's basically a big handle, and you stick your phone in the handle, and it will make the phone effectively float. So shaky footage is a thing of the past. You can make it do all kinds of clever things. You can set it down on a table and control it and tell it to do things and swivel around, and it'll follow the action. It will follow a person around the room. So there's some very clever technical stuff that comes out on these gimbals. So they're also very good too.
And as a basic, if you're not going to go down the road of getting a gimbal, there are some really simple clip systems that act as tripods for phones. You can just pop your phone in there and have a really nice steady shot, which, as you say, is important. Shaky footage is very, very difficult to watch. One of the things that I've heard about, and I'm not sure if everybody quite understands it, is the rule of thirds. So how would you explain the rule of thirds to somebody who's making a video for the first time?
So the rule of thirds is something you would learn about in the fine art section of video or any image making. It goes through all levels of art media, essentially. If you get a camera out and film a person talking, you're going to see exactly what you're looking at right now. Me sitting in the middle of a screen talking to you, which is fine for a video chat. I don't go out of frame, and I'm not constantly moving around and so on. But rule of thirds is composition. Composition gets very boring if someone just sits in the middle and discusses. So we have the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds is basically if you divide your image into thirds, horizontally and also vertically, the best place to put someone's eyes or someone's head is in one of those corners, about there or about there or about there or about there, generally at the top if they're a human being. So the rule of thirds is probably about there. And that's why when you see our interviews, when you watch these videos, you'll probably find most people sitting here or somewhere over here, excuse me, banging. But working forwards from rule of thirds, not just for interviews, but for everything else you film. If you want to film, for example, if you had a dog in your frame that you were filming for some other reason, you wouldn't just stick them in the middle unless they're running really fast, because you can't keep hold of that dog in your screen. But you would generally want to put things to the side, and also not just bang in the middle vertically. So, you know, this is the rule of thirds, is to try and put them off center slightly and off center vertically as well. And it just creates a more interesting frame. Quite often, especially if things are moving, you want them to have some space to move into. So we don't just put things in the middle all the time. I could talk about this for a very long time, but it is all fine art, relative negative space, positive space, complicated stuff. Basically, if you just think about it logically, we don't just want something to sit in the middle the whole time. So experiment with where in the frame some of your subjects can go, and it makes a much more interesting image.
Fantastic. I suppose that's one of the ways that we can keep our video engaging, is not just having a person sat in one spot. What other things can we do in terms of extra footage to keep videos engaging?
Well, using our videos that we made, you just saw as an example, we also don't like just to look at talking heads for the entire video. You may not film a talking head for the video, but generally most videos will contain speaking audio, some kind of voiceover. Now, if you listen to a voiceover, or if you watch someone talk like me, it's a lot easier for the viewer to engage with it if you have other footage that you can use, so you're not just staring at one person. It makes it more interesting. And second of all, it's a much stronger message to visually see what this person is talking about, or what you're talking about, as to get a message across. So if we're talking about video and how you would use a mobile phone, I could have inserted images of mobile phones being used, how to hold them with two hands, using a mobile phone on a stabilizer, many more shots, you know, just a couple of seconds here and a couple of seconds there. And you lay that on the top of video of me talking. So you don't get bored of me just sitting here talking about it, but also you can physically see what I'm talking about. It gives more information. There's more visual information about what is a camera stabilizer or gimbal. Well, now you've got a shot of a gimbal being used and how it can be used. So selling your own business and products, you want to think about how you can shoot your products and overlay those clips over the talking or the person being interviewed, so that you can get more of a message across.
And it's interesting that you mentioned the video of the gimbal, because we've had a question in the chat. Could you explain a little bit more what a gimbal is?
So basically, a gimbal is it used to be a gyroscopic device. It's basically a way of making a camera or a phone or anything that does filming. It makes it effectively float. So
it's essentially then a handle that your phone sits in, and as you move the phone around, it's in the industry they use big steady cams. It's to create the same sort of effect where you can move without your phone bouncing. Is that correct?
Always clarified it in a much simpler way, guys. Thank you. Yes, it's like holding a chicken, and the chicken's head doesn't move. So wherever you move the chicken around, his head will not move a millimeter. And you may have seen these videos, but camera guys have all seen these videos of chicken. But essentially, yes, you can sort of run around the room and throw your arms around like this. The camera will stay dead steady right in the middle, to some extent anyway.
Fantastic. That's just as good as I did. One of the other questions that we had, and we're about to come to it, is how important is sound, and how do we go about recording sound on a mobile phone?
Right, well, let's just say don't record sound on your mobile phone just straight up on the phone as it is, because it's really designed for phone calls. Now, audio is something that people do ignore because it just seems to be, you just need to record a voice. However, the microphone on a telephone is inherently bad, let's say, for filming video. It picks up all the sound in the room, all the sound outside, all the background noises. And yes, if you got really close to a person's mouth, you could record some better sound, but generally you don't want videos with you holding your phone at their mouth. And if you're using that phone to record video, you would just have a close-up of their nose. So that's not really going to help either. So the best thing to do is to buy a microphone. It doesn't need to be what we call a professional microphone. They're $1,500, but there are microphones for under $100 that you can plug into your phone, and you can have even better wired microphones. So just like you see on Paul's top there, there's a little microphone that just clips on, just a tie mic, as we might call it, or lav mic, as they may be known, lavalier. And then you can hide the cable. And if you've got two phones, even better. So you can record it to one phone and then use a second phone to record the video. And then when you go, which we'll talk about in a minute, the video editing side, you can basically sync those two videos up, the one that has the audio and the one that has the voiceover. So yes, microphones are very, very important. And just to reiterate, if you do have a microphone like Paul's wearing and it's close to the mouth, it will effectively eliminate most background noises, and it will just concentrate on their noise, their voice, which brings me to also reminding you, please don't go and film out near a road or near an airport or near anything really noisy, because yes, it's distracting to get through on your message, but quite often you actually can't hear the voice for the traffic. And when you get into editing, you can't really fix that kind of issue. So if you do have to film somewhere near a road, wait for gaps in the traffic, you know, things like that. Just it's a little bit obvious, but sometimes you don't know how bad it will be until you get back. So do experiment with it, but do concentrate on audio. It is very important.
And before we get to the editing that you've mentioned, we have actually had a couple of questions about editing software. Let's just look at the other elephant in the room, which is lighting. How important is it to have good lighting in a video?
Well, honestly, at this level of making videos, I would say, yes, it's important, but I would say don't worry about it to start with. Bring it in at a later time, because you're going to have so much to think about already. However, there's some real basic stuff you do need to know. Smaller cameras, cheaper cameras, mobile phones, things like that. The camera chips inside are sort of generally designed to be used in sunlight. So they actually have quite good quality if you clean the lens, if you film in sunlight. However, and cloud is also very bright, cloudy day, that's also very bright. But if you go inside, doesn't matter how bright you think it is inside, it's about 20 times darker than it is outside. And you will suffer with quality problems on your phone. So if you do have to film inside, please film near a window. Try not to have direct light at any time hitting your subject, like sunlight coming through the window. But if you have to film inside, try and make it bright, turn all the lights on, open all the curtains and blinds up. But if you can, try and film outside, away from traffic, in the sun. Now, the other thing to remember is try not to shoot in the middle of the day in sunlight, just because you will have some very, very dark eyes from the shadow coming down from the sun. It's generally not a good time to film. So best time to film outside are in mornings, early mornings and late afternoons. But if it's a cloudy day, even better. And the reason it's better is because you get this really soft glowing light that spreads around. There's no harsh shadows. But saying that, if you're trying to sell something nice and sunny on the coast, and you're the coastal brewing something or other, you're going to need the sun anyway. So just work with it. However, you know, lighting, what Paul says about lighting is, do we bring lights in? Do we start lighting our subjects? Yes, there's years and years and years worth of reading to do as to how to light and how to play with lights. But it is more of the sort of arty side to making videos. Realistically, it looks like Paul's going to light in there. You basically just want to light the room and light your subject in a nice, gentle way so that you can see everything nice and clearly. So I wouldn't stress over lighting too much, but it is very important in terms of the technicalities of what I just mentioned. So getting a good quality image, making it bright enough so Paul looks like he's inside, and it's got enough light there so that even though it's a computer camera, it can see everything nice and clearly, it's nice and clean. But yes, don't stress over light too much, especially at the beginning. But do keep thinking about light in terms of making a few mistakes. So make sure, for example, please don't put the light in behind your subject. Don't film towards a light, especially if your camera lens is dirty. It will look terrible. So when you have a bright light like the sun, or if you sit up in a studio setup like Paul has and you want to put a light up, just make sure that light's always behind you, pointing towards your subject, and you'll get a much cleaner image that way.
So if we're going to just go through that in a really simple dot point form for people, clean lens, keep the camera still, sideways, have some outside light, and use good audio. Once we've done all that and we've got that video shot, we then need to edit. Now, there's some professional editing packages which cost hundreds of dollars, but we're not at that stage yet. So if we're looking for a simple editing package to use to cut this video, do you have any suggestions as to how we might do that?
Yeah, so I mean, editing programs until 7 or 8 years ago were in the thousands of dollars, and all of a sudden they became a few $100s. And now they're in the tens of dollars. So, and now they're free too, which you'll find on your phone. So if you use an iPhone, there's iMovie, which you've probably heard of or come across before. It's a viable piece of software. I know, let me just say there are others for Windows users, Camtasia or Wave.video, or there are many. Obviously, I don't use some of those as much as I use the professional ones, but the best way to do it is do a Google search and put in your very basic editing software and see what reviews you get. But I have used iMovie quite a lot, and the Windows version of that, they just try to keep it really simple, which makes it much easier for you guys. So instead of complicating things, and people will worry about editing, and they do worry about how complicated it is, it's these programs have brought it down to a much simpler level. However, they are actually very intuitive and intelligent in terms of you get a lot of features. So you can, the whole point of editing software is effectively to cut out some of the rubbish you have. So trust me, when you film, you're going to end up with extra recordings that you don't need. You're walking around with your phone on a tripod, camera on a tripod, looking at the sky for 20 minutes. So you'll want to cut your clips down into concise little clips. You will lay them on what we call a timeline. So you have all your information clips on a timeline. You will then add more clips, which is your B-roll. If you have a chance to get some B-roll, which I advise you do, you can put those on top so that your video then shows some interviews, some B-roll. Then you can go through and sort of correct any slight audio problems. You can definitely cut out any pauses, any bad words, things like that. So you can shorten all your audio, shorten your clips, basically organize everything that's going on in your video, as well as putting on some filters, of course. Don't go too crazy with your filters if you can, but you can add some filters to make it look more colorful, more interesting. And what else? Text and transitions. So you can add some transitions. You can add a lot of text, which is great for social media videos, obviously. However, the whole point of a video in its purest form is to try and tell the story without too much text, but use text to, as you might have seen in our videos, to introduce different sections at the beginning, at the end, to convey information. Where do they go next? If you're putting text at the end, what do you want them to do next? Visit the website, give you a call, and so on and so forth. Don't forget to introduce yourself at the beginning with some text, who you are, what you're doing. You can, if you're going to go and film something, do introduce yourself when you're filming as well. That's another thing I should say about video. Always have more than you need. It's very easy to delete stuff. It's in a computer, it's there forever. So you can delete it into a folder and maybe use it another time altogether. But if you come to a video editing program to make a video and you don't quite have enough stuff, you cannot just make it up. You have to go back and film it quite often, bring it back, and then slot it into your editing. And don't be afraid to do that. We've had to do that many times. But if you can, try and overshoot things, get more information than you need, get more footage than you need, more audio than you need. Then when you come to an editing program, you start putting it together, you have more than you need. You cut all the boring bits out and you leave yourself with just all the very interesting bits. And then you export your video and you're good to go.
Fantastic. And we're getting a lot of questions coming in. And one of the things that's just come in is people asking about B-roll. Now, B-roll is what you were talking about earlier when you film an image of a mobile phone, if we're talking about using mobile phones. And B-roll is just a technical term for that. That's right, isn't it?
It's great. I mean, A-roll would be your extremely important interviewee in this situation. So if you take a standard, if everyone's just watched the video that we watched, A-roll would be your subject talking about the company, essentially. And B-roll is when you place cutaways or other shots of information in there just to break up the video, and also to just give a more visual clue as to what they're talking about. So quite often, as I said, with mobile phones, what I'm describing doesn't always come through to you in just words. So same with your product. If you're selling a product, quite often words aren't enough to describe your product. So you want to show pictures of your product. If you haven't got B-roll in footage, you can use photography stills as B-roll if you really need to. That way you can physically show what you're selling. Say you sell air conditioning units, for example, you might want to show a new part of an air conditioning unit that makes the unit work completely different to all other air conditioning units. But if you just talk about it, no one's really believing you at this point. They don't really understand. So maybe you have some stills, or even better, some video of the inside of the AC unit where all these new titanium fans or whatever you designed are, and you can show close-ups of that in the B-roll. Don't be afraid to show more than one. Show 2 or 3. Show the air conditioning unit going onto the wall, the technician putting it on there, touching the fans, playing with the fans, and blah, blah, blah. This will give you a much more interesting video, and it'll make people visually see what you're trying to tell them, essentially. On top of that, it gives you some play. Videos are fun to make. The best part of videos, making videos quite often, is shooting the B-roll. So don't be afraid to change the settings to slow motion. Don't be afraid to do some rule of thirds stuff for sure in B-roll, and more extreme compositions where things are on the edge of the frame. But also, when it comes to composition, make sure you film a few versions. Film from different angles. Don't always just film from a angle. Think about heights. Something I forgot to mention earlier is, please don't just stand with your phone and film with your phone at standing height. We all have eyes at standing height. So if you film at standing height, meaning holding your phone just in front of you, when your viewers see that, well, that's what they see every single day, because that's where their eyes are. What makes an interesting shot, as it were, is moving your camera away from where the eyes are. So if you watch me go filming for the day, quite often you see my camera on the floor. I'll go and climb up a step ladder. You don't need to go to those extremes, but just remember, say you're filming children, please don't stand up and point down and film your children. Make sure you get down to their level and film from the children's sort of height. So use lots of different angles, high, low, left, right, and always get different what's the word? Different angles on the same subject. So if you think you've got one shot of a fan being put into an air conditioning unit, please don't. Please ask them to put that fan in 4 times and get 4 different angles of it. And to start with, you won't quite understand why, but when you're sitting on your computer doing the editing, then you will thank yourself for having those four different angles, because quite often the next angle won't work juxtaposed to another. I won't get into it too much, but trust me, you never, ever, ever have enough B-roll, as Paul and I know from making these videos. To make any video, it doesn't matter how professional the video is, you will get back and always wished you had more B-roll. It's inherently a problem.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of the B-roll and the extra angles and things like that, which I think are going to be absolutely fantastic for people to go out and make videos. And we have had a lot of questions coming in, and as you said, Tim, you could probably talk about this for another 3 or 4 hours, but I am going to have to cut you short, because we are also going to go on to Emma Barbato, who's going to be our next interviewee. Emma, why don't you tell us, Emma, about your previous life at SCA, and then tell us where you're at now, what you're doing now.
Hi guys, thank you for having me. And it's awesome to be able to speak to the guys there at the North Coast, to be able to share some sort of insight. It's a loaded gun, what my background is. Let's just try to put it into a nutshell to say that I help people build strategies to get their business into the psychology of their consumers, probably the best way, from a whole range of different industries that I've worked in, within lifestyle, fitness, beauty, fashion, anything that really highly communicates to women, probably being the primary target audience. And of course, I was in corporate media with my favorite radio brands, Triple M and Hit. And now I actually have my own startup. I'm a little bit of a startup junkie for the last 20 years. I've sort of had my own startups. I can't help it, but I love innovation and launching things, trialing things out there. So I've got our body care company, Ducks Nuts, which is our Aussie brand, our very, very Aussie retro brand. that helps basically Generation X not feel so sore, because let's face it, most of us are feeling at some particular stage, especially now we're so active through lockdown, just that little bit sore. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell, Paul.
And we will talk about Ducks Nuts and your retro brand shortly, but let's just begin at the beginning. We've now got some really good information from Simon about how we post things on social media, from Tim about how we create those videos that we can then use in that way. But
Tim, I'm going to move into the thirds. Sorry, is that better if I go there? Make it more interesting.
There is a previous step that often as small businesses we don't look at. So in your experience with different sizes of businesses, is it more likely that a large business will have sat down and developed a marketing strategy before they start doing this kind of stuff?
Keyword there, strategy. It all depends on where we define the word strategy, because a lot of people assume that just because you're a big company, yes, you've probably got a marketing budget, probably got a marketing manager, marketing department, but I actually have seen a lot of big companies where they are using lots of mediums to reach their consumer, but when I ask them what's the actual strategy of how they're all talking to one another, what's the journey, sometimes a lot more so than others is it's actually very fragmented. And in today's society and the way to which that we get our marketing messages, it's actually a more common mistake than what you'd actually assume. Just because you're a big company with a budget doesn't necessarily mean you've got a good strat behind it. So it's small businesses who are sitting there going, I don't even know what a marketing strategy is. Don't worry. Some of the big guys don't either.
So what you just mentioned there is different platforms and how they fit in. Can you just explain that in a little more depth for me?
Well, I think probably one of the biggest things is I've made one asset. So I've got one asset, and Tim, probably with what you guys were saying, is I've just gone and I've got this awesome video. I've done it in the right lighting. It looks amazing. I've done it all with I've followed the rules and I've paid my money for it. And then they just blast it everywhere, blasted absolutely everywhere. And different mediums are digested differently through different psychology of when we're watching it. We're very different sitting down with our partners and our family at nighttime watching our TV ad compared to what we're doing quickly in our lunchtime when we've got our phones and we're scrolling through our phones to make our actual finger stop scrolling. So we're in totally different mindsets based on how we're consuming our email marketing, how we're consuming our publishing online. It's so different. So to be able to do a strategy where you've got one marketing message, you might have to break up multiple times in multiple ways based on where it's being consumed and how. Most people don't do that.
And I think also we need to look as well at at our customers. We have more than one type of customer in our business. And I've heard a lot of talk about avatars and personas. And a lot of people will have heard those words and go, I don't know where to start. So how do I go about creating a persona or an avatar for my customers so I can start understanding them?
Oh, I tell you, I have read some theatrical avatar scripts in my time where people who maybe they've done a branding course or they've done something that's fantastic because everybody needs an avatar, but they get really, really theatrical about who their avatar is. In other words, their ideal customer. Like, my ideal customer is a millennial woman who is carefree, and you're like, okay, just calm it down a little bit and just get an idea about, when we say target customer, the first thing that we've got to get our head around is not everyone is your customer, and people hate that. They hate that. You might have lots of people touch on your website. You might have lots of people who your product or your service helps. But when it comes to who your marketing message is targeting, you cannot target everybody with one message. So one of the things that when I'm working with someone with an ad campaign or with a marketing strategy, I first ask them, who is your avatar? Who is your target audience? Who are we trying to speak to with this creative? Just here, because you're not going to get everyone. You're not going to hit every generation at every stage of the buying process. You're just not. So per marketing campaign, go with one avatar, one ideal consumer. And trust me, their psychology is totally different. Don't just think you're going to blast it and be able to speak to a Generation Z the same way. Some little, sort of 24-year-old is the same way you're going to speak to a baby boomer. It's not going to happen. So when we work with that avatar, we try not to get too theatrical about who and what they are, because that can also almost romance them. People don't like the fact that their idea of their customer actually isn't their customer. You've got to be really humble when it comes to developing your target consumer, and also match it up with, you guys will love this because you're the kings and queens of this, data. Match it with your data and customize your message to that customer. Do not spray your marketing message and think that it's going to hit everyone just because your gym or your avatar, whatever service that it is that you've got, has multiple types of people walk through their door.
And I think it's very easy as business owners to go, well, I really like this product, and I would buy it because it cleans my boots or whatever it may be. But what we don't then understand is how that translates to other people, because we don't all buy on the same premises. So once we've created those avatars or a customer profile for a particular campaign, how then do we go about creating better content to reach that person?
Okay, it's a basic guideline, because otherwise in today's society in 2021, there's too many ways you can hit that consumer. Too many. It's overwhelming to even be a consumer, let alone try to target them, right? So the idea is that that's your anchor point. Okay, we're going to speak to customer A. This is who and what they are. So now you have to look at what their triggers are, what their motivations are, what their pain points are, what their pleasure points are. It's kind of like the 101 on marketing. Now we have to be able to speak to just that audience there for that campaign. Once you've got that, you will find it so much easier to build your content. So with what the guys are saying on today's webinar, that is this valuable stuff that they were telling about, how to capture it, where to place it, social media advertising. If we don't have an avatar to start with, then we don't have anything that they're operating. So that's my dog bashing the actual table. I'm sorry about that. So some have got kids. I've got 3 dogs that could go off at any stage. I apologize. So once you've got that one point, you can now start to study who and what they are, when they buy, why they buy, how much money they've got. It's big something to take into consideration, and when they're spending it and how. And there's so much amazing information available on the internet to be able to teach you more about your avatar. You will find your content so much easier to make when you know who you're speaking to.
And often we get these kind of tips from people who are saying, you need to find an avatar, you need to do this, you need to do that, but we don't often hear it in a practical setting. So I've been around since you've started the Ducks Nuts brand, and I've watched you go through this branding journey as how you got to this place. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that journey and how you got to the place where you're now putting out this content that you've described as retro and Aussie? So how did you come to that?
Well, it actually started, you know what? It started by me actually making a mistake. I knew full well. So we had the brand that came to fruition really honestly, where I've got my tradie husband was coming home sore all the time. Whoa, sore and dirty. So it was actually a practical solution, like super simple, super practical. So we created a soap kit range for magnesium bar salts and a body spray, which was magnesium body spray. So the solution was simple. Then we looked at who we were speaking to. As I said before, who saw the most? Listen, we're all sore, but I can't speak to everybody at the one time. So it was us. It was Generation X. It was us, the fact that we're probably going out, probably maybe playing sport. We don't want to stop playing sport, but probably the body isn't holding up recovering the way that we want it to. So we're also the generation that looks to quick fixes, because I understood the psychology of the generation. Gen X. We're not going to be going to doctors for things. We're going to look for a quick fix. We're the generation that your mum chucked you in a Radox bath when you were sore from school, right? So we're kind of got these belief systems in our head. So instead of trying to create this body care brand that was really targeted towards millennials, which they have a whole different way to which that you communicate to them, and making everything about body care and self-care and making it this pampering kind of line. Our generation don't care about that. They're like, I'm sore, does it work? What's quick? And where did we get that belief from? We got it from when we were young. So we got it from the 80s. We were raised by those parents where maybe a seatbelt kind of, well, if it's there, put it on. So that's where I just use that avatar of who we are. When did we build that belief about taking care of our body? We're sore. It's going to happen. So we started to really, really understand where that belief system started. Simple, easy, quick fixes, nothing glamorous. And, when it came to price point, don't become overzealous in your price point. Don't over capitalize on your marketing strategy to say that our body scrubs are going to be able to, do you know what I mean? Restore your youth. They're not. Do they work? Do they not? And once you're loyal to their brand, Generation X are really, really loyal once you prove your point. So kind of coming back to not just talking about, Ducks Nuts itself, that took a year. That took a year to truly understand, to test, to understand what messages work. It took we have to be able to trial a lot of things, happy to go back to drawing boards, but that just, for those businesses who are out there listening to it, to go, God damn it, why do I keep missing the mark? Just keep going. That took a year to get that narrative right, to get the creative right, to get the product right, to get it all right. It's going to take time when you're paying attention.
And when you do get that right, that becomes your touchstone for absolutely everything that you do. So what people maybe can't see because you're sat down is the Ducks Nuts t-shirt that you have on. This Ducks Nuts t-shirt is a copy of I believe a Playboy ad from the early 80s, but it just sets you back in that retro time, the time when we were young, and my mum, it was a Dettol bath that I got thrown into, but the same kind of thing. Yeah, that stuff stings. But once you develop that touchstone, that should be in every marketing message. Yeah,
so much easier. Yeah, that means that the people, the influencers that we want to work with, the people that we want to collab with, the messages that we put out, it just, as you say, like it almost becomes the magnet that we don't have to worry about trying to put out multiple marketing messages to just go, which one sticks? You just keep holding that. And yes, you need patience, because then all the good brands that are out there are known for certain things. So we got known for our retro Gen X Aussie feel because we just stuck at it. We knew, and we just kept going and just filtered everything around that one message. So for those of you out there that are kind of like, I don't know what is our brand, what is our style, what is our message, what is our vibe? It's going to make your marketing content really difficult. You find that you're going to be wasting a lot of time.
And when you find that vibe, one of the questions we've just had come in is, should that message be different on different platforms, for Facebook or Instagram, for example? But would you say that although the way you deliver it is going to be different across those platforms?
That's different. So the message isn't different. The message stays exactly the same. We will help you when you're sore. We'll help you when you're sore. You get sore multiple ways. That's the message. That's what it is that we're about. That's what we do. How I speak to you and how it's styled and how it's shot and how it's done, totally different on multiple. Like how it sounds on radio is going to have to be really different to what it looks like on a social media platform whilst you're scrolling through, and I've got to stop a finger to make it intriguing enough and to be engaging enough in that, 10-second mind span. So same message, but you probably got to have about 5 or 6 different assets to how you convey that message. That's where it gets fun. It gets so fun when you start to understand that. I know most small businesses are going, oh my God, how is it so difficult? Well, this is the game, right? We're living in a technological age. You're either in or you're not.
And there's so many different touch points as well. And one of the other questions that came in is when everyone can see the assets, would you still be targeting them to a particular avatar?
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. And as they were talking about before, that's when you start doing your splitting, when you start testing those things. Say we've got this incredible technology in social media advertising. Oh my God. Where we can start to split it, to be able to turn around and go, here's my avatar. Now, how do they want to be able to hear it? Do they want to hear it with fun memes? Do they want something educational or entertaining? Do they want it tongue in cheek? Which one works? So you've got to break it all up, test the hell out of it, which is the creative that works on what platform, and you go for it from there. So 100%, you've always got to start, who am I trying to speak to? And then it's going to take a bit of testing. It's going to take some trial and error.
test, learn, and reiterate. I guess that's the message.
And read the data. Read the data. I know you guys, anything to do with you guys are like, actually read your data. There are insights there for a reason. You don't have to guess anymore. We are basically stalking the hell out of you from consumer standpoint. So you don't have to worry about trying to guess. Read your data. They will tell you who is interested.
Absolutely. And Simon would know as well as any of us how much data there is in a Facebook platform to show you who's actually reading your content. What we're going to do is we're going to go to our next case study video. So we're going to be looking at Hillview Herb Farm out in Gloucester. And then we'll come back. If anyone has any more questions, we can probably do a couple of questions before we finish up, because we are running slightly over time. So if you have any questions, pop them in the chat and we'll give them to the guys after this next video.
Yeah, Hillview Herb Farm, we bought our property 31 years ago with the idea of doing a business from home. And what we do is we grow herbs, we make value-added products, we have farm gate tours where people come and visit our farm. We sell our product locally to our local supermarkets and to fruit shops. Hillview is best known for the farm gate tours. We have visitors coming from all around Australia visiting our farm. We're also known for our artesian herb salts, and they were ordered by Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade for the bushfire recovery program. And we were very, very lucky because they were sent overseas for diplomats and to our embassies to be given as in gift bags. And 7 products were reordered, and we were very, very lucky that our product, our artesian herb salt, was put on the reorder list. Okay, what I do for our local community, I'm a member of a group called Essentially Barrington, and our Essentially Barrington group, we have the idea of our bringing people to our area and to get produce from our farmers out to other people. So we get people, when we have groups through, we'll get 2 or 3 farmers to come to our farm to highlight their products, to get it out further to the community. We love to sell products from our own backyard. We're very, very lucky. We have our local honey gentleman, and we sell his honey, we sell his pumpkins, we sell dyes, candles and soaps and pot purees. We sell Dimity's moisturisers, whatever we can actually get from our local community, we sell here at Hillview Herb Farm on our farm gate tours. I find the benefit of doing business in the Mid-Coast is, one, it supports our local community. So the more product that we can actually produce in our area and sell to our area, that actually brings the finance back to our area, and then our locals can spend that in our other shops. So the more we can do local business and support one another, the better economically our community is. The future's very bright for Hillview Herb Farm in our local area. We have visitors coming from all around Australia for our farm gate tours. We also do a lot of farmers markets in our area, and a lot of people are getting to know our produce and our products, and a lot of people are asking for our products. So we feel that we have a great future in the local area.
Aaron there from Hillview Herb Farm. Had a really great day up there, and some fantastic artesian herb salts that they were getting picked up by the government to go out through the Department of Foreign Trade. Fantastic story. So we are slightly over time. I want to thank everybody for their contributions today. You 3 guys have been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. And just to reiterate, build a strategy, set up your social media, and create good content. That's the clear message that's come through today. So thanks, Tim. Thanks, Simon. Thanks, Emma. We are going to be back on next Tuesday morning, another early one at 7:30. That's going to be talking about taking your business online successfully. We know that in this pandemic, many people have started shifting to using an online form of business, but we're going to talk to some people who've done that in a very successful way and share some of their insights with you. If you've not registered yet for the Bigger Backyard, just jump on biggerbackyardmidcoast.com.au and follow through to the registration page. And we will see you next Tuesday. Thank you very much for joining us. Take care. See you then.